Hey guys, so I wanted to address two common questions I get about chickens. And the first is, how do you do it? It's that time of year where Tractor Supply has cute little fluffy chicks and they're so appealing, but a lot of people get overwhelmed when it comes to trying to take care of them. And a lot of times it can seem way more difficult than it is. I promise you that keeping chickens is easy. The most work that's going to come is at the beginning when they're babies and you have to keep them in a container for at least 5 to 6 weeks. I'm going to go over the supplies you need, how to do it, and then the second part of my video is, can you keep chickens if you don't live in the country? And usually the answer is yes. It depends on your city ordinances that you'll have to check for where you live. But most of the time it's becoming more commonplace to be able to keep chickens while living in town. We live in the city limits on half an acre, so we're not out in the country by any means. Our town does not have any restrictions, which is nice, so we can have as many chickens as we want, I'm sure within reason. And we can also have roosters. Most places they'll say you can't have a rooster or you can have 2 to 3 hens, but it is possible for you to live your homestead dreams while still living in town. First, let's get to chicken keeping. How you're gonna keep your chicks alive. I promise it's not that hard. The main thing you're gonna need are some supplies to get you started. You're going to need, there's the dog. You're gonna need a container to keep them in. I recommend getting a watering trough from Tractor Supply. I'll show you mine. I'll show you all the supplies after this. Because you're going to want it high enough, because within a couple of weeks they start getting their feathers and they can fly out of more shallow tubs. We have 2 roosters and they're constantly battling it out, so if they're fighting behind me, just ignore them. So you're going to need a container to keep them in. Next you're going to need a heat lamp, because chicks just have that cute fuzz. They don't have feathers yet. They can't regulate their own temperatures, much like a newborn baby. So you're going to need a heat lamp. Most of the stuff you can find at Tractor Supply if you're getting your chicks there, or you can order your chicks online and just look on Amazon for this stuff. So a heat lamp, make sure you have your chicks and thus your heat lamp in a place where it's not going to catch on fire and it's not going to be a fire hazard. I usually attach the heat lamp to the water trough. Sorry if I sound out of breath just standing here. I'm 7 months pregnant, so this is just the way I breathe. So heat lamp to keep them warm, and you're going to keep them indoors or in your garage for 5 to 6 weeks. The main thing is you want to see them have their feathers developed, and you want it to not be freezing outside. So depending on what area you live in, our last freeze is around April 1st. So if we had chicks, we wouldn't really start moving them outside till then. Next you're going to need a feeder and a waterer, and those are just little plastic things. The main thing with the waterer is that it has somewhat of a cover, or that it's very shallow, because the chicks can be a bit clumsy and can fall into it and drown. You don't want that. That would be traumatic. And you're going to need chick feed. It's usually called starter feed, starter scratch, and some shavings for the bottom of your trough. I don't recommend using hay, just because in the past I have had some chicks slip on it with a metal bottom, and it can cause their legs to not develop properly and they can't walk. So I usually just get some shavings, a pack of shavings from Tractor Supply, put it real thick on the bottom so they're not slipping around, and you're good to go. All right, this is the bin that we keep the chickens in. I want to say this is a, I don't know, maybe a 2x4. I'm terrible at measurements, but you can see it's still nasty from the chicks. I had a little makeshift roost in there, but I would put the shavings in the bottom and their feeder and their water in there, and it's tall enough to where they weren't really able to start flying out until about week 5. This is the feeder that we use. You can also use it as a waterer, but you can see it has the protective little rim to keep them from falling in. And I found our heat lamp, and so it just clamps. You can see here it clamps on the side. It's got a warming bulb, and so when they're really small you keep it that close, and as they get bigger, and you'll notice chicks, whenever they get overheated, they'll start to hang out on this side, so that's a sign you need to move your heat lamp a little bit further away. And so we had it in our shed, and I would clamp this light on some 2x4s above the pen and just kind of watch them and see if they were huddled under the light. I knew that they were cold. If they were away from the light, I knew it was getting too warm in there. So you just have to keep an eye on them. Okay, the last topic is, can you have chickens if you don't live in the country? I want to say yes. It's more commonplace now for the answer to be yes, but you'll have to check your individual city ordinances. You can Google it and find that information. That's what I did for where we live. Ours doesn't have any restrictions, like I said in the intro of this video, which is nice. That was one of the reasons I wanted to purchase a house here, because I was like, we can have chickens, and that's a big deal to me. I think one of the main things to consider if you are having chickens in town, you don't have a very big yard, is that they can be messy. And so we free range our chickens. We let them out during the day. You can see back here they have a little bit of a run for if we go out of town or something like that, but it's not very big, and I wouldn't want to keep them in there for a long period of time because it's so small. And we have 9 chickens, I think. We've lost a couple here and there, so I lose count. But if you have a small yard and you don't want chicken poop everywhere, or you don't want your chickens on your porch or in your garage, things like that, I would consider that when you are picking out your coop, and make sure that you have a run that is going to be big enough for the amount of chickens that you have. For our size run, I wouldn't keep more than 3 or 4 chickens in there long term if that was going to be their home. But just consider the mess that they make, because they do poop a lot, and they also will get into your flowers and garden and things like that. So if you have we have a half acre, and so they have a pretty decent amount of space to run around. So it doesn't get too terribly messy. They poop on my porch, but we fenced our garden so that they can't get in our garden anymore. But just keep the mess in mind and what you're willing to put up with and how much acreage you do have. But you can totally get creative and live your homestead dreams where you're at, even if you live in town. Because we are in our city limits, and you can see we're living the barnyard dream. We're getting creative with our gardening, using our space as much as possible to make the lifestyle that we long for, which is out in the country, a reality in town. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching. You know that I'm the crazy chicken lady if you follow me on Instagram at all. So I want this dream for everybody. But if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. You can also find us on Instagram at The Carolina Farmhouse, and I do have a blog as well, thecarolinafarmhouse.com. So check out those resources. I have lots of information and helpful tips. I hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching.